Thank you, Rabbi. When I stood before you last year, I had rarely just begun my tenure as president. It was an exciting time for TCS. Our membership was solid, our preschool was thriving, and Kahila was energized. Our finances were in good shape, and we were optimistic about our fundraising efforts. And we were all in this building, greeting each other, hugging each other, and enjoying a strong sense of community. Who could have possibly imagined that in just a few short months that this would happen? The pandemic has impacted virtually every aspect of synagogue life. But as I have observed how our community has come together, I am most confident about our ability to deal with this crisis, and I believe that our future is strong. You know, we turned 33 years old in January. 17 years from now, TCS will celebrate 50 years as the first conservative synagogue in Westport. I'm sure that someone will be addressing our congregation in the year 2037, just as I am now, talking about our history on that special 50th anniversary. He or she will indubitably talk about the pandemic of 2020. It's a subject that people will talk about for decades. But I wonder what he or she will say when they tell the story about how we as a community dealt with this unimaginable experience. Will that president talk about our incredible rabbi, how during the pandemic he initiated a daily minyan that never missed a day, even when the lights went out? Will he talk about his tireless commitment to our congregants, his managing virtual B'nai Mitzvahs, his leading funerals with handfuls of people, his managing shivas on Zoom, his many hospital visits, and his countless conversations with our members? Would this future president mention our gifted cantor who led beautiful and heartfelt services with passion and joy 7 days a week, week after week after week? Would he talk about how he participated in many events throughout Fairfield County that allowed so many people to enjoy his beautiful voice? And would that president mention how our cantor was ordained as a rabbi after years of study? We were all so proud. I wonder if that president would talk about our dedicated COAC building committee who met almost every week during the pandemic. A committee so lucky to have people like Rob Haroon, Bob Storm, Eileen Frost, David Popkin, and Carol Boaz. Each brings a unique area of expertise to this project, and their commitment to its success is extraordinary. Would he mention Dick Colt's devotion to our synagogues? He spent hours, days, and weeks enhancing our security, both as a board member and as a key player on the COAC building committee. And how Dick teamed up with Matt Beyer, David Young, our technical guru, and the cantor to create an enhanced streaming capability that we're all benefiting from throughout these holidays. Would he or she review all that Laura Pankos and Sarah Glick did to ensure that the preschool continues to deliver outstanding programs in spite of the unbelievable challenges they encountered, with consistent help from Linda Gordon, Miriam Young, and Maren Zeev? Would he or she talk about Kahila and explain how Seth Golub and Halit Rosenberg developed new and creative ways to teach these courses remotely, which you may not know received high praise throughout Fairfield County? Renee Sephardi, Lisa Rosen, and Nikki Abramowitz were always there to help. I wonder if that president would talk about the fantastic fundraiser we had just before the pandemic, and how Beth Rand, Jennifer Camphor, Susie Blumenfeld, and Robin Caden worked tirelessly to make it happen. I'd also be curious to know if that president mentioned how over 40 of our members delivered food to needy families 6 different times during the pandemic as TCS partnered with JFS in this noble cause. Julia Mark, Sherry Washer, Stacey Camisar, and Amy Weissman made it all happen with unbridled enthusiasm. This president would have to mention how the Tikkun Olam Committee refused to let the pandemic prevent them from continuing their social action pursuits. Julie Padziba, Jessica Siegel, and Karen Leichter led this incredible team, and it's a joy to see what they do. I would hope that this president As he or she recalled the events of 2020, would talk about our Sisterhood Committee led by Diana Sussman and Wendy Schaefer, and all the important work that they do. Just before the holidays, over 50 volunteers delivered honey and apples to every single member of our TCS family. One thing I know that president would talk about is our professional administrative team, who somehow kept the place running and moving smoothly. Our executive director, Julia Brennan, in concert with Joanne Folger, Lynn Picorni, and Kim Phillips, worked tirelessly in uncharted waters to ensure that TCS continued to provide the services our members deserve, including making these high holidays as wonderful as they are. What this team does every day is absolutely mind-boggling. And if we're talking about the holidays, I certainly hope that president would rave about Nancy Cohen and all she did to make these holidays such a success. I watched in amazement as Nancy juggled a dozen challenges at once and somehow managed to get it all done. She is simply a force of nature and continues to be a wonderful resource to TCS and me personally. If our president in the year 2037 really did his or her homework, they wouldn't forget to mention how Mark Zuckerman and Mindy Hirsch did so much to make our youth program so successful, and how our brand new membership team of Michelle Friedman and Bianca Jonas brought so much enthusiasm to this critical role, or how Karen Wolf, our executive vice president, who has been on the exec committee for 10 years, brings such insightful wisdom and perspective to every problem and challenge that we face. This president might not be aware of what our very special Tibby does for this organization, this community, day in and day out. Whether it's playing guitar at a Friday night service, preparing meals for Shabbat or special events, or producing these incredible high holiday videos, Tibby is a gift that keeps on giving. Of course, this president would mention our terrific support team of Nelson, Diego, and Luis, who conscientiously every day do what they have to do to maintain our building, make sure our events run smoothly, and satisfy the needs of our members. And they do with such grace. So yes, when our future president speaks to our congregation on our 50th anniversary and looks back at what we experienced during this horrific pandemic, he or she will have much to talk about and many people to recognize. He couldn't possibly mention everyone, which is disappointing. So Adult Ed and Tamid and Engagement, Brotherhood Ritual, Finance, and others deserve kudos they might not get. Unfortunately, time constraints won't allow that. But I hope that in the spirit of Yom Kippur, those who were left out will forgive him or her, and me. And now the hard part. Whenever I speak to a friend or family member or even an acquaintance about my role at TCS, the first thing they ask about is my high holiday appeal speech. Most are curious, others are amused, some are empathetic. Everyone is sympathetic. It's an unusual and daunting task. Here we are on the holiest day of the year, and we take time out to ask our members to make donations to the synagogue. But we need to do it. We have short-term needs and long-term needs when it comes to our finances. Short-term needs are dependent upon the high holiday appeal. Our dues only cover 60% of our operating budget. Simply put, we need additional revenue for TCS to operate, and that is why this initiative is so important. If you have supported the appeal in the past, we thank you. We thank you very much. If not, I ask you to consider it now. When our committee discusses the appeal, the last thing we want to do is predetermine what a family should contribute or judge what people do, especially when so many have been impacted by the pandemic. But TCS would benefit greatly if more of our members contributed. As our treasurer, Jeff Cohn, who works tirelessly to ensure that we are fiscally responsible, said so eloquently in his email to our members, quote unquote, "We are asking those who can to reach a little deeper and make TCS one of your top priorities." That to me says it all. Just the other day, we received an email from a congregant who said he wanted to double his contribution to, quote, recognize all that TCS is doing and the hard work that they are committed to and the financial challenges that many of our members are experiencing. I hope that resonates with everyone. I'm pleased to say that once again, our devoted board of directors has committed 100% to the High Holiday Appeal. And of course, a big thank you to John Kane and Jeff Cohn for helping to manage this important initiative. And then, of course, there's the co-op campaign. This focuses on the long term. As you have heard often, co-op means strength. We are moving from strength to strength. The first phase of this campaign was to secure clergy housing for both the rabbi and cantor. The properties were purchased in 2008 and 2016 respectively and are now assets of TCS and will be funded by the campaign. The next phase of co-op focuses on the needs of the building. Our building has served us well, but the reality is it is dated and it is tired. When we received unanimous approval from P&Z, there were many comments from their members about how our plans were a vast improvement over the current facility. So here's what will happen. First and foremost is security. We will do whatever necessary to provide the security we need. To this end, we plan to transform the front entrance and exterior facade and upgrade our equipment to fine-tune surveillance of our property. In addition, we plan to enhance and enrich our space. Our sanctuary will be more beautiful and modern, allowing for a greater spiritual connection. We plan to create a community lounge for daily socializing and meetings, equipped with a coffee bar, internet, and multimedia. And we plan to better use our outdoor property with an event space and contemplative garden. We want our building to be more inviting and allow for our space to be more relevant for day-to-day activities and events. Our plan is not to create more space, but to create better space, space which will foster, strengthen, and build our community. In order to build for the future, we need to attract new young families. Improving our facility will help in our recruitment efforts, especially when potential members are now moving to Westport at a rate we haven't seen in decades. To accomplish all this requires significant volunteer time and energy, and of course, donations from our community. Eileen Frost has been involved in this project since day one. Working with her day in and day out on this initiative has been one of the highlights of my presidency. Eileen leads a high-powered team that includes Beth Rand, Margie Labar, Nancy Cohn, Shelley Casson, and Richie Burns. It is because of Eileen in this group that we've raised over $3.7 million from 75 families, which is on behalf of our overall goal derived from less than 20% of our membership. I think this bodes well. And this has happened in spite of our putting off our efforts, putting them on hold for almost 90 days due to the pandemic. We had no choice but to eventually reach out to our congregants virtually, and that has gone well. We have much more work to do, and we plan to ask every member of TCS to participate in the campaign in some way. So as I said last year, when a fundraising team member calls and asks to meet, please accept our virtual meeting. Listen to what they have to say. Review the plans, study the financials, and ask whatever questions you may have. And please give what you can. Again, we are sensitive to how COVID-19 has impacted many of our members. Yet we hope we'll receive contributions from a significant percentage of our TCS family. We need to ensure, as our rabbi prophesied in one of his weekly meaningful Shabbat messages, that TCS will be here for many years to come. And I believe that is our collective responsibility. We need to maintain our spiritual home. We need to keep growing. We need to continue our legacy. We all have to do our part to ensure that our community and all Jewish communities continue to thrive. At this moment in time, more than any other I have experienced, we need your support. I am delighted that our board is committed to this campaign. We are so fortunate to have such a dedicated group of individuals leading us into the future. So let me conclude by saying that when this future president speaks to that congregation on our 50th anniversary, that not only will he or she talk about our accomplishments during the pandemic of 2020, but will rave about how TCS members did what they had to do to transcend the barriers we faced and ensure that our enhanced building became a reality. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Our situation reminds me of something I heard at a wedding decades ago. The rabbi talked about how it's easy to get along in the good times, but marriages are tested during difficult times. I believe the same applies to us. We are being tested right now. This very minute, it is our duty and our privilege, I believe, to support TCS. As your president, I could say with pride and gratitude that your commitment to TCS has enabled us to stand tall in midst of all this adversity. And again, as Rabbi Wiederhorn assures us, we will always be here for our members, always, and long after the pandemic is over. So for Lois, my wife of over 50 years, our precious daughters, Andrea and Deborah, their devoted husbands, John and Howie, and of course our spectacular grandchildren, Logan, Sage, Jonah, and Tess, I wish you all a healthy, peaceful, meaningful, and productive year that is overloaded with many pleasant memories. Shana Tova.